When we were conquered by the English, we lost our language. But the music carries on.
Hi, Cup of Tea TV viewers. My name is Lila Schmitz. I'm the director-producer of the documentary film, The Job of Songs.
And my name is Annika Kahn-Grestad, and I am the cinematographer and producer of The Job of Songs.
And we are here in Los Angeles, California, and this is where we live. And we met Damien in Doolin at the launch of the film. We are delighted to announce that the film is now available to rent in Ireland and are really excited to talk to you about it. So when I was a teenager, I traveled to Ireland with my family. I have ancestors from County Kerry and cousins still there. And I traveled there and stepped into a pub session and was totally overcome by this feeling that I couldn't describe. And when we were graduating from college in 2018, we had the opportunity to apply for a documentary grant at Colorado College where we went, and this was the only thing I could think to want to try to capture, is this feeling that overcame me of the music and the people sitting next to each other, having just met or having played together for 40 years and creating this something that I could not describe as a viewer being in there and as a listener. And so we applied for the documentary grant and were given the chance to take a risk, I think, which is generally when you're getting funding for a documentary, there's a lot of planning that goes on, there's a lot of sort of defined story that you have to give, and so we were given a lot of trust and free rein to go and shoot something based on capturing this feeling. And we headed over there in 2018 with our co-producer, our partner producer, Fanyishu, who had not yet graduated Colorado College, and the three of us went to capture this feeling, and that's what the film is.
Yeah, and we were there for about a month total, and we started meeting people at first through our B&B hosts, Joyce and Fiona, and so they would introduce us to some of the musicians they knew, and as it went, we started to, one musician would introduce us to another, and we sort of, through this snowball effect, got to meet a bunch of people there, and we're so lucky to be trusted by them with their stories, and we would just go over to people's homes. They would offer us often tea,
coffee if I was lucky.
Sometimes rhubarb pie or tuna fish sandwiches. And we would just sit and have chats with them and film these interviews, and then we would go to the pubs pretty much every night and film in the pubs for the month that we were there and try to capture that feeling that Lila was struck with of the music and the community. And then we came back to LA and worked intermittently for about 3 years on the edit.
And we were working in the industry as well with documentarians, different documentarians, and so each of us was learning different skills that we then would come and bring back to the film and have new insights and learn more about the legal side of filmmaking, which is really fun, and the way to tell a story in the most engaging way, and the professional color correction, and all these things that were sort of new to us, and just it was definitely a journey of learning and curiosity. And we in 2021 November, we premiered the film for the first time at the Doc NYC Film Festival, which is America's largest documentary film festival, and that was such an honor. We were really lucky to be there and surrounded by really great filmmakers and films, and so that was a wonderful world premiere, followed by a session at the pub down the street that lasted for hours and hours, and then the that led us to take the film to more film festivals, and including heading to Ireland and going to the Galway Film Fleadh, where we had our Irish premiere, our international premiere, and we won the Best International Documentary Award, which was such an honor, and got to share the film with people who were in it for the first time. Yeah. Monday nights at Fitz's were always really good crack, and we went probably 3 or 4 times while we were there, which, you know, for a short time was really the most that we were able to go to any one session or be in any one space. And it was just something that completely drew me in, and had been suggested by locals, and we're so lucky that that was sort of what was just poppin' and great crack, and something that we ended up having be a central focus of the film because it was such a vibrant and lovely time.
Yeah. And then I think one thing that we knew we wanted an interview with Kieran from the Fiddle Case, who does those Monday night sessions. But we were having a really hard time nailing down a time to talk with him. He was busy while we were there, and at some point he just said, well, you can film with me on this car ride to Cork. I have to drive to Cork, which is a long drive. And so we were like, okay, this is our chance to film with him. So we were like, okay, we'll come with you to Cork. And so we're filming with him, and we basically did his interview in the car, this long car ride. And it was a great way to conduct an interview, and he was great, and it was a lovely time, but I get very car sick, and so I was just sitting in the back seat of the car holding a camera for probably a couple hours on these windy Irish roads, just trying not to throw up. And for me, that aspect of that car ride was bad crack.
That's also not the only bad crack that had to do with motion sickness.
That's true.
Because I had this idea that we had to get on a boat and go film from the ocean, the cliffs of Moher, and like we know, Annika gets very motion sick, and also is the director of photography, and thank goodness most of the shots in the film are hers and not mine. Anyway, so I ended up with the camera on the boat. Needless to say, none of that is in the film. But
we got off the boat and just collapsed.
There's a photo of us on our backs on the pier. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
But we were pretty boat sick, seasick.
Yes. One of my favorite moments while we were in Clare was when we went to Ted McCormick's house. We had met him, I think, in the pub in O'Connor's where he was singing, and he invited us over for an interview. And so, you know, we went to his house, he sort of showed us around, and then he showed us his vintage karaoke machine, which is incredible. It's like this old machine that uses, I think, floppy disks for the songs, and he has this thick binder full of all of the lyrics, and so he sang us some songs on this karaoke machine, and then he was like, okay, put the cameras down, come and sing with me. And so Lila and I set the cameras down, and we go over, and
I think Fungi was holding the camera.
Okay,
there is evidence.
We gave Fungi the camera, so yeah, unfortunately there's evidence of my singing. And so we were standing next to Ted and singing Imagine by the Beatles on this floppy disk karaoke machine. It was just the most wholesome, wonderful moment.
Sun was streaming through the window,
yes,
for sure.
Definitely.
It was beautiful. Yeah. One of my favorite moments was also in somebody's living room. We met Katie Thiesby for an interview at her house, and that day I had been on a real low. I struggle with depression, which is something that's touched on in the film and is very near and dear to my heart, and it's some of the musicians struggle with. And we just sat down in Katie's living room with a cup of tea and started to talk to her, not knowing her, and the way that she opened up about her struggles, especially with mental health, and just being sort of this like very honest and vulnerable person to talk about what she was willing to share with strangers, basically. It just was so touching as I was sitting there struggling with like pursuing this project and having belief in myself and the fact that it could come together, and having Annika and Fungi and Katie all there, and hearing sort of this just supportive, intimate story from Katie was like this moment of cohesion that ended up dictating the like power of the rest of the film and what we were able to shoot and get, and I think about and be open to. And I was just sitting there with tears like in my eyes trying to ask questions, and she was such an open book in a really beautiful and supportive way, and so yeah, that was definitely a huge moment for me in the production of it, and one of my favorite moments ever, truly. Yeah.
And then I think since we've finished the film, we've had like the opportunity to share it with audiences, which has been so special. And going back to Ireland this past summer and getting to play the film there, it has been like one of the best moments of the whole process. We premiered it at Galway Film Fleadh, and then we also did a community screening in Doolin, and having, you know, full houses watching the film, having the musicians there to see it for the first time was so special, and getting to hear their reactions, it was just like unmatched.
After the screening at the Fleadh, they came up for the Q&A and just shared the kindest words, and it was this moment that I had been so nervous about for years, literal years, waiting to share it with them and hoping that it would do justice to their story, and they were really supportive, and it was, that was absolutely a thrill. Yeah. And now, The Job of Songs is available to rent on IFI at Home, which is part of the Irish Film Institute. We are so honored to be partnering with them to make it available. This is the first time it has been publicly available in the world. It's available to rent in Ireland. We are working on the rest of the world. We are still learning, we are still curious and trying to figure out how best to get the film out there and available, to do justice to it and to make sure it's in respectful and good hands, and the Irish Film Institute is the absolute best place for it to start. So IFI at Home, it's ifihome.ie is the website, and you can go and rent it now. I hope you really enjoy it. We have put a lot of heart and soul into this film, and would love to hear from you guys and hear what you think, and we're here.
The magic of the west of Ireland is the time. It's the time that you've spent with yourself, sitting down at the pier, watching the day go by, taking the time to come back in and sit and wait for the music to begin.
Very good evening to you all. You're listening to Clare FM, and it's Friday night's West Wind. I'm Owen O'Neill with you for the next 2 hours. Start off with lively music.
Wouldn't it be great to write something that's going to be around for the next 400, 500 years? Like, musicians are very sensitive creatures, but artists are always hiding something, aren't they?
I'd go out and I'd be the life and soul of the party. You know, in the end, like, I'd go home and I'd just be quiet. It's a very lonely place. If we didn't have the music, I don't know how we'd cope.
When we were conquered by the English, we lost our language. But the music carries on.
Music isn't as important as I'm saying, but without it we have nothing. Nothing.